So welcome everybody, an official welcome to this third free webinar that we're doing. Well, Mark and I are sort of co-hosting, and Mark's doing all the talking, and I'm just going to give him a little intro. So this one, Mark called, what did you call it, Mark? I forgot. Listening to be guided by mind.
Oh, great. You did good.
We're so laid back and like, we'll just do another one. Oh yeah, what was it called, this one? So that's what we're up to today. I hope that most of you, if you registered this afternoon, you wouldn't have got it yet. But Mark shared a YouTube clip that he wanted to send out to people, where he was listening to mind. Wasn't listening to mind, and it was being guided by mind. So I hope you've seen that, or you've at least seen the email, and I'll send it out again to people in the morning who perhaps didn't get it yet. So for those of you who may not know who this gentleman is, Dr. Mark Howard, that's going to be speaking to us, he has been around the block a little bit in terms of the principles, I believe. He's been, 1982, I think, was when you were introduced to the three principles. Direct student of Sydney Banks, and been doing a lot of work with private clients in businesses, in organizations, mentoring, the whole caboodle, the works, let's say. There's probably nothing you haven't done. Maybe that's a question. What haven't you done? You perhaps wouldn't know that. But anyway, I'm just going to hand over to Mark, who's going to talk for a little bit. He's going to share a little bit on our topic, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A, for some interaction, maybe half an hour down the line, something like that. So over to you, Mark. Oh, and the little bit I forgot to say, of course, probably one of the important things, is this is Mark's going to be with us here in Albia, with me here in Albia, and at the end of October, we've got a 4-day retreat called Maximizing Your Impact for Client Transformation. And so this webinar is sort of, we were talking about that earlier on, is like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you can expect if you want to join us on that retreat. And I know a few people that are on the webinar have already signed up, and we will be together in October. So I look forward to that. Definitely handing over to you now, Mark.
Great. Well, thank you, Sheila. Well, it's just wonderful to be here with all of you. When Sheila and I were talking, I didn't imagine we would have 3 webinars, but I just love being able to be with all of you, and so we keep adding webinars. You know, the reason I sent out that video, it isn't so much about me. It's a question that came up during an event when I was doing with Michael Neal, and I share it because it really, if you look at it, I want you to see that as I get started, I listen back to being guided by this intelligence of mind rather than my own personal thinking about the question. And the rest of that answer comes from letting that guidance take me through the answer, give me stories and ways to answer the question. That when I first heard the question and I had personal thinking about it, I was like, oh man, how am I going to answer this? And then I just dropped back. I want you to see that happening, because that's really what I want to point to today, is that you can drop back and let mind guide you rather than you try to answer questions or see what's needed. And it was so powerful that Michael and I separated this video out of the video program to offer people. So that's why I wanted you to have access to it, because it really is an example of today's topic. So, what I want to share with you today is profound. It's nothing that you'll ever get an intellectual understanding for. You need to have faith in the truth of what Sydney Banks directed us toward. And you have to let it touch you, see beyond your usual thinking, that it's all up to you, you know, and your brilliant intellect. But we were meeting, we didn't meet often, or at least I didn't meet often through the years with Sydney Banks, but there were occasions that we would meet for several days. We would just talk with him, he would talk with us. And this one time, he shared something so profound, for me anyhow, that it guides my life. And so I just want you to take it in a reflective way. See if you can sit with it and that it might ring true for you. But he said at one point, as we were questioning, he said, listen, he didn't quite say it this way. This is like what I remember. He said, listen, you have to believe. You finally have to believe you're God and you're being guided in life. Now that just really moved me beyond any more thinking to something. And when I heard those words, I knew was true. Now, I couldn't understand that. Like, I couldn't grasp that. How can you grasp that? But I knew that was true. And in that moment, I saw I don't have to monitor my life anymore. I don't have to be the one to plan my life. And that it's possible to be guided. Now, ultimately, what Sid followed it up with through that 3 days was that we're really being guided to find what he said is our true self. And he described that as happiness, love and understanding, joy and wisdom. That's what we're guided to discover. So, I mean, I still am living in wonder about that. And whenever, like when I'm talking with you today and reflected on the title for today, I keep moving myself back to living life by the guidance of God or mind, as Sid called it for psychology purposes, rather than me trying to take over, rather than me being insecure and then trying to take charge. So then we kind of looked at this and we looked at it in terms of, well, how can knowing this to some level help with the way we presented the understanding in our practices, in our health practices. In those days, it was mostly psychotherapy. Coaching was not really much of a profession then. There was not much looked at in terms of coaching. It was more kind of like consultation to businesses or organizations. So we took it into our practices and tried to see, well, how can we trust that we are guided in our work? To see the truth that we are guided in our work. And then we, talking together, we went deeper to see we're guided everywhere. You're guided to deepen your relationships. You're guided in, of course, your work. You're guided in all areas of life if you can hear it, if you open up to that, if you believe as Sid said, that you are this energy, that you are this intelligence of the universe. And so as I took that into life, I did get guidance for my marriage. I wasn't looking for it. Like I didn't kind of sit and say, okay, God, show me something about my marriage. You know, I didn't sit like that because that would never happen. But at different occasions in my relationship, I would be given something. I would see something about how to be more loving, more understanding, beyond my thinking about my wife. And every time I talk about this at other places, but every time what came to me was something that didn't exist anywhere. I read a lot of books that were about therapy for relationships, for families. And what would occur to me was never found in those books. It was completely new and powerful. Well, we started to look at it in our work, in our practices, in our sharing this understanding with our clients. And what we discovered is that it's really sitting in a consciousness. It's really sitting in a space while you're with your client where you don't really think about yourself. It's the best I could explain it. We started to see that when we were with clients, we would have an opinion, or we would make a judgment, or we might put someone in a category, or more subtly, we would make assumptions. We would say, oh, okay, they get this, so now I should teach this. That's an assumption. And we started to see how we interfered with this intelligence of mind. And we started to sit more with our clients, quieting that mind, quieting that personal mind, sitting in quiet. And what started to emerge was it was becoming more obvious to us that what people were saying was curious to us, was puzzling us. For example, how could they say that if they understood the principles? Now, we didn't say that in a judgmental way. We just said that out of starting to get puzzled by how they were presenting things in life. And we started to trust, really, it's a trust, that if we could sit with our clients in this state of mind, in this kind of space inside of ourselves, we would be directed. It could be simple things like, you're not getting anything yet, ask more questions, or man, you're losing the rapport, or, you're talking too much, check in, or something profound that you as a coach now or as a therapist hadn't seen before about the principles to share. And we found that we can be much more impactful and helpful if we kept ourselves coming back to having faith and trust that we wanted to be in a space to let what we truly are guide us rather than our personal minds guide us. Now, that doesn't mean we were perfectly in sessions, not in personal thinking. That would come up. You can't stop thinking, but you can see what you're up to. And we started to notice that and then quiet ourselves and go back into the feeling of, it's kind of a feeling of quietness, of being with a client who's just like you, that their mind too, they've got the intelligence working in them, and that feeling of love, and just sitting in that and just letting the guidance come to you no matter what it was. So uh, so that's the best description I could make of it. It's like, it's really looking beyond your own ideas and beliefs and thoughts when you're with clients, and staying quiet until you hear something, until something comes to mind. And as you have more experience with this, in other words, as you live more in your coaching work or your consulting work or your therapy work, trusting this, um, then it's easy to talk about it with your clients. So, so I'll stay quiet sometimes until I know something, but when I'm quiet, um, I get, it comes to me to let your clients know what's going on. Let them know you're quiet so they don't get nervous. So that was something early on that kind of came to me. And I would tell them, I haven't seen anything yet about what we're talking about. That's why I'm quiet. I'm just listening here to see if I could find anything um, that would be worthwhile to share. And they then supported that. They were fine with that. So the more you respect staying quiet inside until something really occurs to you, um, then you get the richness of what's right for the moment. You see a teachable moment. You see what's needed without you making an assumption of what's needed. It'll just be given to you. Now, along the way, you're in conversation. You could be in conversation and still be quiet. You could still ask for them to give you the time to be quiet if you really see that's really important at the time. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I mean. You may have heard this story before, but it was just powerful. It was a powerful teacher. Just to digress a bit, when I took this on, uh, as we were trying to bring it into our therapy practices, I learned by doing this. It's not like a doing, but I learned along the way. So here I am offering a class once a week to this group of patients we had in our program on the principles. And I would share different life topics. Well, this one topic was on relationships. And I started to share my usual relationship talk about how the principles work in relationship. It was my usual kind of standard way of presenting. I had a feeling for it, but it was something I had already shared a couple of times. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, this is off. This isn't working for this group. You don't have a good feeling for this. And I got quiet. I knew I was off, and I just got quiet. In front of a group of 30 patients, inside of me, this is within seconds, I got quiet. I knew to get quiet when I got that guidance. And I'm quiet and I'm not getting anything, but I am still secure with being quiet. But then it came to me, let the group know what you're doing. And I did. I let the group know, I was sharing something that I've shared a couple of times with you about relationships. It wasn't right. I know it's not right. I'm trying to find something that will fit. And that's why I'm quiet. Is that okay? Everybody said, fine. Now, the next minute that I turned back from letting them know, I had it. It came to me. A whole new way, a whole new point, a point that was fresh that I hadn't seen before about an interpretation of the principles that relates to relationships. And I shared it. It was very meaningful. And again, it was for me learning how guided I am. That I could never have come up with that point. I was lost in my usual rap, as George Pransky calls it, a rap. Another time I was meeting with one of the well-known figures in the Alcoholics Anonymous movement in California. And he had shared something about an AA point, and I challenged him. I said, no, you're off. It's really, you really have to see it this way. Well, the minute I went in that direction, the whole rapport was gone. It was like, oh man, I could just see his being reactive to me, and we were disconnected, and I was lost. I got in really insecure. I didn't know what to do, and I got quiet. Thankfully, I had learned enough to know that. I got quiet and just try to settle down. And it occurred to me, you need to go get the feeling back. You need to go connect with him again as a human being. You need to find a way to get into love and understanding again. And so what occurred to me was just to talk to him human to human, neighbor to neighbor, about his grandchildren. I said, oh man, how are your grandchildren doing? And we started to talk, and the feeling was starting to come back. And then it occurred to me to apologize. And again, I hadn't seen this. I apologized and I said, there's wisdom in what you were saying. I saw in the moment of apologizing that there was wisdom in what he was saying. I hadn't seen that. I wasn't looking at it that way because I was judging. I was in judgmental thinking. And I just said, I saw the wisdom. I see the wisdom in what you're saying. And I'm sorry about the way I responded to you. Let's talk about the wisdom you saw. So there are moments like this that have been going on for now close to 41 years, that I can get quiet and let the guidance of mind show me, or give me really, the gift of how to share with this particular client. There are many, many stories. There was a time, just personal stories of the guidance. There was this one time when my wife and I got in an argument and we went separate rooms of the house. I went to the kitchen and all of a sudden it just occurred to me, Mark, you're off. your thinking just went south. It was a time when my wife had been generous, giving me time to go to these seminars, Sydney seminars and so forth, over an 8-month period of time, while she was taking care of my two-year-old son over these weekends. It was that time. And it was that period of time. So as I quieted down, what occurred to me was, she doesn't know that you really have changed. She has seen you get angry, and she thinks you're the same old person now. Even though you've been different for 6 months, she thinks you're the same old person. You've got to go tell her you're different, and this was just a blip on the screen. That's what came to me. Now, who could make that up? Who would know that? And I went back and shared that with her, and we got closer. And I started to see this as a way to help couples. And like I said earlier, you can't find that in any therapy book about couples or couples counseling or anything like that, to share in this way. So I wanted this for all of you. I wanted to take the profound statement by Sydney Banks, that if you could just get a flavor of your day, let your day be guided rather than you be taking charge. You be in a beautiful feeling, and you would be creating. You would see what next step you need to take in your life for joy and happiness. And you'll see that's all you need. So I wanted to take how we heard that profound statement, and how we, at the time, brought it into our work, and the power of trusting that in your work. During a time in the 1990s, we were trying to do a certification program, which really was, we thought was something helpful. It did help. It did help practitioners, but it wasn't really the principles, and thankfully Sid corrected us. But during that time, I mentored psychologists who were wanting to become more 3 principles practitioners. And when we got to the place where they didn't know where to go, instead of getting quiet and listening for the guidance, they got insecure and started to use their old techniques. So our conversations were all about trusting that if a therapist could get quiet and really listen for that guidance, they would be given something. And to just quiet down getting insecure, just quiet that down. It's nothing. It's just some thought you have about needing to be able to know what to do. A lot of times, I don't know about you and your practices, there are moments where I don't know where to go. And I love that. I love that, because I'll share that with my clients. It's you and your clients working together. I'm not sure where to go with what you're saying so far, you know? What do you think? You know, if you're human, and you can help yourself get over being insecure about not knowing what to share. Because if you did share it, you'd be making it up. You, with your personal thinking. You get comfortable with letting that go and just get quiet and not know. You'll be given these gifts. And like I said, they're simple. It could be just like with that Alcoholics Anonymous person, just get the rapport back. But once I headed in that direction, it became rich because I was sitting in the consciousness of beyond me, trying to figure it out. Too profound. Like I got this whole new way of presenting the principles in relationships. So I wanted to give you that. There is so much here we could spend a day looking at this truth and just living with it with each other and not getting analytical about it, but just living in the deep feelings it gives you. It gives you joy and happiness and well-being, and it gives you what you need in the moment. One more story. My wife and I were at the Long Beach lectures in person that Sid has now. It's out there for you to watch. And after the first morning, Sid said, take the afternoon off and just enjoy yourselves. So my wife and I walked down into the town of Long Beach, where they were having an art and wine festival, with craft booths and so forth. And they had kettle corn, which is like sweet corn. And I love that stuff. They had a kettle corn booth. So I went up and I was in such a great feeling. I said, give me the large, you know? Uh, and they gave me this kettle corn that was as tall as me. That's the large. And I just started laughing. I said, oh my God, and I turned to my wife with this, and she starts laughing. And we were just in these feelings of nothing. We were just giddy, giddy. We didn't think of our marriage. We didn't think about how we should be, any of these. We were just away from our personal selves. And we were just giddy. We were just foolish. We were just goofy. That's what we needed. That's what we needed in that afternoon. That's what Sid wanted us to get to. Not particularly that he knew that we needed to be giddy, but he knew all of us needed to be in this beautiful feeling and let us live in this and what can emerge from this beautiful feeling and what can emerge for you in your coaching work, in your health work, in this beautiful feeling is what's needed for your client. What was emerging for my wife and I was being in nothing but good feeling. And that translated into being giddy and goofy and laughing. And none of that was coming from analytical thinking. I hope you get a feel for what I was pointing to. It's nothing that we can grasp intellectually, but you can get a feeling for it. You can begin to trust it, that you are God and guiding yourself through life. You're being guided to realize your true nature of wisdom, well-being, love, and understanding. Isn't that something? And I love that I'll be reminded of that, and I could go back to that and live some of the day in that knowing. So I'll stop here, Sheila, and I'll stop here, everybody, and just see if there's anything you'd like to share or ask about, and see what we can discover together with your questions. So, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. So good to see you again, Mark and Sheila and everybody. Um, totally what you said, is one of the first things that when I got into the principles were so comforting, so comforting. And I don't have a question. I just wanted to share a little bit more deeply in what I've seen about it right from the get-go. Because before the principles, when I would sit with a client, my brain went to what's next, what tools, what steps, what do I need to teach them? And I wasn't present. I was in my, and always I would finish a session and it was like, I should have brought this one up. I should have talked to them about this. Or this is not, this step would have helped them, or this technique. And when I saw that with the principles, I just relaxed into just being present, just being in the session, just being with my client and listening. And I totally know it's not me because things that come out of my mouth, there's no way. Sometimes it's in English in words that I'm like, I don't even understand what I'm saying. And I know it's in English, but it's like, wow, who said that? Who so I know I'm like, I am that vehicle for wisdom to talk through me and to show up and say what needs to be said and guide the way it needs to be guided. And it's not that after a session I don't have an idea or a thought and something else deeper occurs to me. And then I was like, say, well, yeah, and that too. But it doesn't come from like, oh my God, I should have. I didn't learn enough. I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I didn't prepare myself enough. It's none of that. I literally come in, and the same thing was when I came in and spoke in London. I knew that what needs to be shared would be shared. I just know that. And
That's beautiful.
That is so that's so putting me at ease. And when I'm at ease, then my client is at ease.
Yeah.
Because if I'm tense, they feel the tension.
Well,
So that's what I want to share.
I love that. And I love that feeling, and comforting is really, that's really a beautiful description of Sid's sharing this with us. And it's comforting to know you've got your back. I also wanted to share something that you may not have realized. Sid always tells us, just show up and speak from this. And, for him too, Rachel and everyone, words would come to him that he didn't know. And he would, when he was speaking, he would use words he had no understanding for. And afterwards, he would ask his wife, Barb, his then wife, Barb, did I use the right word? So that's this power to really take you beyond your intellect into something grander. So I love, Rachel, you're sharing this, and it really is a change from skills and abilities to just living in the comfort that you'll be guided. Anybody else have a question or anything you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you. Um, oh, hi, Pam.
Mark. Hey, everybody. I appreciate what you were speaking of, and I just wanted to highlight that for me, it understanding and accepting that I can listen and respond to whatever guidance comes through takes a huge burden off of me in sessions with people who might present whole maelstrom storms of stuff, like almost like an intense stream of details and their feelings about their situations. And that question that was coming up for Rachel, like, oh, what do I do next? What technique do I use? Or how do I respond to this? I think every single one of us, if we're honest, has those moments. And the willingness to sit back and just go, oh, okay. And I also love what you said about letting the client or the patient know what it is that you're doing when you're quiet, because they might think, oh my God, I've just said something to him or her that has blown them away, and now I'm hopeless. I can't have any help. So
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I'm the one being mentored or coached, if I don't know that that's what the silence means, my own mentality might take me, oh, I said the wrong thing. I asked the wrong question. I'm bad. I'm an idiot. And that doesn't do any good. So I underscore that too, that's really helpful, at least for people like me anyway.
Oh, thank you, Pam. Hey, Pam, nice to see you. Yeah, what Pam reminded me of is that we're gonna get thinking about how we're doing. We can't help that, but we can recognize that we're getting ourselves nervous or insecure, or we're being judgmental, or we're putting somebody in a category, and quiet down and go back inside to listen. And it's for me, it's not really like you listen for a long time in quiet. Most of the time when you look within and, something occurs to you. And it's so important to be human to human with your clients, and that's where it came to me to share with clients when we're quiet for a bit, what we're up to. I also share with clients if many things, like if I realize that I'm talking way too much or taking up too long, I'll share that with them. Hey, I've been talking here quite a bit, how's that going for you? What shall we go back to hear what is important for you, or how's this going for you? I'll check in. It's human to human. But any other questions, even about the first two webinars that we talked about together, that we were here together?
I like, Mark, this blank. When you ask a question, for example, is there anything else you could share? and be the presence and the space, you know, giving the space and be in that space to allow things to emerge and bring back a sense of peace. I find it, as I experience this through our conversations, you know, within the 3P, I find it very impactful.
Yes. You know, really the idea of getting quiet, that's my idea. It's my way of coming back to get away from my own thinking. But that's really the reason I do it, is my trust and faith that I'm guided by mind, you see. So my way is to quiet down my thinking, you know, that's how I describe trying to get into a consciousness that's beyond personal thinking. And again, like you're saying, Estelle, if clients find that quiet, they find peace of mind. That's one of the states, that people drop into when they can go beyond their personal thinking. Theo, you had something you were going to share?
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Theo.
Hi. So, yeah, I guess I'm so on board with like that kind of being guided within coaching or a sharing setting, and I feel enthused about that. I feel excited, and I feel yeah, on board with that kind of thing. Like I don't see any kind of challenge there really in that for me. But where I feel challenged about being guided by mind is when it comes to like life decisions and where to put my energy in my life, and like what to focus on and how to move forward with things in that sense, and feeling stuck in like whether I'm gonna continue with this path of becoming a coach, and what it's going to be called and what it's going to look like, and whether I'm going to go into this area or I'm going to go and do more one-to-one stuff, and whether, you know, I'm really called to do more with my music and songwriting, and how to find a balance and all that. And so it's like I feel totally lost when it comes to being guided by mind in that at times. And do you want to say anything about that?
Well, you know, sure, Theo. You know, what comes to mind is a couple of things. One is you experience your faith in being guided when you're coaching, is what I hear. And it looks like there's something different when you get into real life. You know, it looks like you got to pay attention to, it looks like it really is important to pay attention to your thinking, you know. So it looks different. That's all. You're just thinking about it differently, that oh yeah, here in coaching I could let go of all of my assumptions and insecure thoughts. I'm making this up, huh? And let myself be guided. You're closer to living there in your coaching. but it looks different to you when you enter life and you're thinking about yourself. So somehow you think it's different. You think, I don't know, you think that it's, I don't know, it's more significant to answer these questions or look at these questions about what direction to go into life. Maybe get more serious about them. And again, that robs you of just kind of staying reflective, asking. This is what I love to do, is asking the intelligence of mind to show me and just sit with that, see? But what I would say to you, Theo, is for you to just see that somehow you don't trust the guidance when you come into so-called your real life compared to in your coaching. In your coaching, you're more relaxed into that. But over here, it looks like you got to get to it or something. You value more your own personal thinking. That's what I first noticed. And the other thing is, there is no difference, because if you really look at it, and I don't know, I get a feel for this. There's so much more to see the truth of. You're really guided to enjoy your life. You're really guided to fill up in the day, to let life come in. And if you lived like that, you'd know your next step. If you could get to that and trust that in your day, you'd know your next step, which might be give yourself time. Who knows what'll come to you? But it may be just simple things. But Theo, that's the first thing I noticed. There's something that you don't trust about being guided by God in your real life that you trust in your work. And that's just your thinking. You just have, I don't know, you just don't see it deeply enough, trust it enough that it can also give you your direction in life. It's like, I don't know, there's this saying like, who do you want to direct your life? Your own habits of thought, your stale habits of thought, or the intelligence of the universe? I hope that helped, because when I'm like that, Theo, I just sit back to I just ask these are my words, okay? The intelligence of mind guide me. I just help me see this. And then I leave it alone. I still have more and more to see about being guided in life in general. I have more to see. Everybody does, because there's no end to knowing more. But anyhow, that's what I think, Theo.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Mark.
Sheila, what do you think? Do we have time for one more if somebody has a question?
Yeah, I have
Oh,
time.
okay.
If you have time, if anybody, I've just typed in I was just typing in the link to the information page for the retreat in Spain. But yeah,
Great.
absolutely. If there are any questions out there, I can stay a few minutes more. Sure. There we go, Kev.
Oh, hey, Kev.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Leslie, did you want to ask a question as well?
Oh, no, I was just going to add to what's being talked about, was that I think it's also possible sometimes to, because it's happened to me, to get the guidance that you're talking about. And because it sounds so out of nowhere or unfamiliar or even maybe wrong, that there's a very strong temptation to ignore it.
Yeah.
Think, oh, I don't know where that came from. So, because I had it last year, just going out for a walk. My brother and I were taking turns staying at my mother's house, taking care of her because she had dementia. And things had got really ugly between him and I. A lot of tension and friction. And I went out for a walk, and this thought came to me out of nowhere. I want to call and apologize to him. And I thought, what? No, I don't. I'm
Yeah.
just going to keep walking and see if that goes away. So I kept walking, but it kept coming. It's like, no,
Yeah.
Leslie, you
Yeah.
want to call and apologize.
Yeah.
I thought, okay. So I called him and we talked a bit, and then I apologized to him, and it was heartfelt. And I had absolutely no intention of doing that. But it was so heartfelt that at first he pushed back and just screamed at me about how awful I'd been. And then he said, thank you for apologizing. It really means a lot to me. But I think to me, that was, as I've been listening to this whole hour, it's like, yeah, that was my wisdom coming through. And I came so close to not doing it because it felt like it came out of nowhere. That's all I wanted to share. I've just been loving this so much. Thank you.
Well, geez, I think that's the human condition of, because, we've heard from a mind all our lives. And it's really good to see that we could be vulnerable to ignoring it. Thank you for that story, because it's kind of like the way it shows up for me too. And being able to trust going in that direction. Kev.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Kev.
Yeah, so something that came up for me was I just felt as though you'd solved a mystery for me, because a particular client who I've worked with for a couple of years now, I would often say things and he would say to me, wow, where did that come from? And I wouldn't know myself where it came from. And I often watch back the recordings of our calls, and I was just thinking, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so you saying what you've said tonight and what you've shared, it's kind of like it's answered, it's made some sense. It's answered that question for me of that. It's made me feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's made me feel more comfortable with it, which is, that's all I wanted to share. It was,
oh, thank you, Ken.
Quite a realization.
I know it's kind of like appreciation, like, I've been living with this understanding that way, and, in the work initially, I was seeing people 5 hours, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I learned a lot in this regard, and I saw this all the time, like that came from me. I came up with that, and I started to just live in the awe of what can be given to me, because I'm mind. It's me. I'm mind. And in a sense, you're giving it to yourself, but not from your learned habitual thinking that's stale, but from something that's closer to hearing the truth. So isn't it comforting to know you're connected, you are a part of something that has the intelligence to provide for you in what you're doing.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
we'll take one more here. Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you, and just what a joy it is to be back in the company of people who are wanting to, you know, deepen this understanding for themselves and to help their clients. And, you were just so on point today, Mark, and I loved it so much. So just thank you to everybody.
Thank you thank you, Lisa. Me too. I think for Sheila and I, that's why we added a third webinar. It's just the sense of just of loving being with all of you that want to be a service to humanity, and you know, having something that I thought would be helpful to share. So it was great being with all of you.
And I just before you put a lid on it, if you
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there is a question in the chat.
Oh,
So somebody said, I'm stuck having it intellectually, and I'm really new to this. Any advice on where to search to see more would be great. I feel I've looked everywhere with what I can afford, but just stuck.
can you share that again? I couldn't hear all of it.
So, okay. So I'm stuck having it intellectually, and I'm really new to this. Any advice on where to search to see more would be great. I feel I've looked everywhere with what I can afford, but just stuck.
I think it's beautiful that you notice what's in the way, and that you want to see more. I think that's beautiful. You have already shifted. You have to see that. What I would do is go to Sydney Banks. Honestly, his seminars now are available to the public free of charge. They're powerful. Listen to one chapter in a sitting and let that sit with you. Read his books. I just went back to a book he wrote called The Enlightened Gardener. I've read that many, many, many times. And I just went back to kind of reading it. Like I usually read his books before I go to sleep. And he said something in that book that I'd read many times, and it hit me deeper. So he writes for you to go beyond your intellect. He writes for you to see this deeper. And that's where I would start. And so that's what I would do. You know, that's what we did. There was no videos or there weren't any 3 Principles coaching programs out there when we started. We just continued to look at him and listen to him. So he's written to wake up something more deeply. So start there. If you have more questions when you're looking, you could email me. We were going to share my email in case any of you had any questions going further. It's Dr. Mark Howard at Comcast.net, Dr. Mark Howard at Comcast.net.
There you go.
So, okay, Sheila.
Yeah, generosity of Dr. Mark Howard. I will be sharing his personal email address tomorrow in the email that goes out to everybody with a recording. And yeah, any questions that you have for Mark, he says he'll be very happy to answer on email. So brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark, for suggesting to do this 3rd webinar. I think you've been very generous with your time, and I know everybody sends messages how much they appreciate it, how much they love hanging out with you and being in this space. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here. It's been another wonderful hour to spend together in such a nice feeling for me anyway. Lovely. And see some of you in October, and hope to see more of you in October. We'd love to have you join us for our 4-day retreat. We've got the link. Yeah. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely rest of the day, evening, wherever you are.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.